We got some Lions news for you folks today, and in this video, we're going to break the news down, and we're going to be talking a little bit of injury update for the Kansas City Chiefs players, which is a significant impact on that game, obviously, for Week 1. Injury updates from our players. We got some good one, we got a bad one, a lot to talk about in this video, getting it done as the 53-man roster is nearly set by tomorrow, and then we're off to Kansas City. We are on the road to 8,000 subs. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Let's get to 8,000. Every sub counts, and it does help out. Let's get to some Lions news here. We just got an update on the injury from Nate Sudfeld, Lions backup quarterback, from Dan Campbell, and Nate Sudfeld is out for the year with a torn ACL. Look, you know me, I have not been a fan of his play on the field, not a fan of how he throws the football, and I don't think he has an NFL arm. I don't think he is a quarterback that should be playing in the NFL. With that said, I absolutely feel terrible for the guy. I never want players to get hurt like this. You know, this is absolutely terrible, especially for the last preseason game for him. Maybe, you know, he could have made another team's practice squad or another team or something of that nature. And, you know, now he's had his torn ACL. You know, it probably is the end of his career in the National Football League. And, you know, he's going to have to go through rehab and all of that. So I wish him the absolute best. And, you know, I got prayers for him in his recovery. It was nothing personal against him as a human being. And that absolutely sucks, you know, that he is having to deal with his injury. You know, in regards to the impact of our football team, it's not going to have an impact. I did not have him making the roster. Teddy Bridgewater was going to be our backup quarterback, and then you got Hendon Hooker out there, you know, who eventually will be activated to be on the Lions' 53-man roster and eventually be the backup to Jared Goff at some point. Probably not this year, but, you know, going forward for the Lions. And his recovery is looking pretty good. You know, he should be activated sometime this year. Probably be the Jameson Williams treatment where you wait, you know, halfway through the season or whatever, but it even less impact than Jameson Williams because you already got Teddy Bridgewater as the backup quarterback. So, you know, it's the recovery for him is looking pretty good. And so it's good to hear about that for sure. The Lions did have interest in Trey Lance, and the Lions supposedly offered, I think, a 5th-round pick to get Trey Lance. So I've been hearing about what does that mean for Hendon Hooker. It doesn't mean anything, in my opinion. They like Trey Lance in that draft, and they're trying to get the best 53-man roster. That's what teams are to do. So, of course, the Lions are going to inquire about Trey Lance. And I'm sure other teams as well besides the Dallas Cowboys. That's what Brad Holmes should do. I'm glad he inquired. He should be inquired about any player that's potentially on the trade block. Can that player help the Lions out? So if you're thinking, oh, doom and gloom and Hendon Hooker's bad and all that, or Teddy Bridgewater, that's not what it would have been about at all. You're always looking to get better from a roster standpoint and put feelers out there. And, of course, I think the Lions wouldn't have gotten that for him. I think, you know what the Dallas got for him, 4th-round pick, is kind of where it'd be at. So, yeah, you know, that's perfectly fine. So it's not a negative on any of the guys. It's just that's what a roster and a general manager should be doing to build that thing up. Let's get into some significant injury that's going to affect the Detroit Lions Week 1 because Chris Jones and Jackson Smith and Jigba may not be in that game. And that's huge. Chris Jones is one of the best defensive players in all of football. And if you don't have to deal with him in the offensive line, with our starters don't have to deal with Chris Jones, that's going to impact their defensive play and obviously impact our, Jared Goff, the offensive line, and how our offense works. It's going to be significant if he doesn't play. We'll get closer to the injury report when it happens, but it looks like it they may be out with him. And same with Smith and Jigba. Good player for them at wide receiver, and oh man, it's Cam Sutton will go against Les, and look, they're a great juggernaut offense. So we're still going to be stretched out defensively. They're going to have a lot of players that are going to give us fits because that's what Kansas City does. They're just really good. Andy Reid's really good. But having less players on the field is important for the Lions' defense. So you're going to have Cam Sutton out there, and we're going to talk about another player who's a starter for the Lions, Jerry Jacobs and CJ. So these guys are going to go, may not have to deal with a player such as Smith and Jigba. So really, really epic for the Detroit Lions. Let me know in the comment section, who do you got winning this game? Put L for Lions, C for Chiefs. Let me know in the comments below, and maybe this update, an injury update, will affect that. Because Emmanuel Moseley is really close to returning, folks. Lions cornerback, whom we signed in free agency to be our number 2, is nearly ready to return. And I think he's going to be ready for Kansas City. That's huge. You're talking about you have your starting secondary. You would have Cam Sutton, Emmanuel Moseley, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, Tracy Walker, Jerry Jacobs. This is a big injury update and a positive for the Lions. This is huge. Because if you could get your starting defense and the guys who get interceptions, and that's what Moseley does, back for Kansas City, and it's much needed against such a great offense, the best offense in football, or one of the best. It's such a great bet because we need to have all our guys against KC. You're going to Arrowhead. It's going to be loud as hell. You need to have all your players in to go against the offensive weapons. That is the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. If he can be back, that's huge for the Lions. Huge. I can't even tell you how big it would be. So if they're down, some of their good players and we're up all of our good players, the Lions have a better chance to win. Now, maybe he's not fully in the playbook yet. Maybe they don't trust him enough. If he is available to go, you'll see him on the field. Maybe it'll be split reps or something like that. It could be less snaps. Maybe they want to bring him in a little bit slow. But he will be on the field. Big time. Big time for the Lions if this is working out. Players have been released so far, and hopefully by today, we'll get some more players that are released, so we'll get closer to whom the idea of the Lions roster is going to be. Julian Okwara is the big name right now. Will he be traded? Will Julian Okwara be a Detroit Lion? We're going to be monitoring this today and tomorrow, the roster spot. Maybe players have been released while I'm making this video. Let me continue to, put it in here because you just don't know how this stuff works. You don't know how it works. And, some players could get released while I'm making this video. And Dan Campbell talked about it today that there's going to be some really good players that are going to be cut for the Detroit Lions. Could players whom we like be cut? Could Jason Kabinda be cut? He's been on the roster for a while. Will Harris, could he be cut? Does he stay? Players we like, could they stay? Stephen Gilmore, Chase Lucas, Sterling Thomas, undrafted players, could they make the football team? It's really important how this happens. Well, the wide receiver battle and who makes the final spot. And it may change if the Lions do make a trade for a player. So just FYI. And just because players make initial 53-man roster doesn't mean that they're going to be on the football team starting week 1. You know how the NFL is, and so they're turning over rocks all the time. So how is the wide receivers going to pan out? Do the Lions make a trade for a wide receiver? Because that's been a lot of rumors flying around here. Could be a big name. Could be a Denzel Mims type of trade, maybe a lower trade on the market. A lot of interesting moves that are about to be made. And it's going to affect our football team. It's going to impact it quite well. And I know a lot of people don't care, at least the people that don't really pay attention to the Lions every day like you do. But, having your depth is vital towards the season because you do have injuries and you want to be able to have players whom can supplement the injury, come in and still have a good impact. It's not a big drop-off. That's so important through a 17-game season, through an NFL season. So we're about to find out, folks. And a lot of speculation is going to be ending soon, and that's really good. So make sure you go and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that like button. Let's continue to grow this Lions Nation Unite because it's great.